Ambassador Glass, if I might just continue in this general direction, because I didn't get a chance to question you at all in the first round. And thank you for your willingness to continue serving and representing our nation. I think you served well as ambassador to Portugal. My thanks to Mary and the rest of your family for your willingness to step back into the fray. And for sharing with folks that your faith is the underpinning of your public service. I think that's constructive when people do that. I agree with you that the U.S.-Japan relationship at the end of the last administration was in a very strong and good place, and that the progress that was made in pulling together Korea, Japan, and the United States was a significant step forward. I am concerned about the future direction of that trilateral relationship because of unfortunate recent developments in Korea. Just help me understand what you might do as ambassador to help strengthen or sustain that work. Senator Hagerty and I and a bipartisan group went out to both Japan and Korea last August to try and reinforce and give some lift to it. But since then, there's been some dramatic intervening events in both Japan and Korea.
Right. Senator, thank you for the question, and thank you for your interest in the region. It's very important. If confirmed, I think we all have to be patient to see what happens with South Korea. That's currently in effectively a state of turmoil, and we'll have to see what comes out of that. But no doubt, it's a step backwards in trying to build that relationship between not only the bilateral relationship between the Japanese and the Koreans, but with the trilateral that we have working. I think in most of these cases, and what I've seen in that, and once again, coming from the outside, we don't have as much information as maybe we will in a few weeks if confirmed, but by the way I'm looking at it, it seems to be that a lot of the issues that we're discussing are too broad. And I think that we can narrow those down between the three countries, and it would be very helpful. A lot of times when you're that broad, it's difficult to make advancements in what we're looking to do, whether it's on the security side, the economic side. But if we can narrow those down and really get to work and dig in on a very specific number of issues, I think that would be a tremendous help.
Two more things, if I might. I recently met with a large group of Japanese CEOs who came to just sort of increase their engagement and visibility. They are very concerned about a potential trade war inspired by tariffs that might be improvidently imposed. I'm not going to ask you to respond to this, but in my previous questioning of Ambassador Hoekstra, sometimes President Trump engages in public bluster about matters that are framed as a negotiating tactic. I think for the Japanese in particular, it's profoundly unsettling for them to not be clear about our relationship, and I tried to provide some reassurance about the deep bipartisan respect for their hosting 60,000 U.S. troops in Japan, as you referenced. The Special Measures Agreement is coming up for renegotiation in 2027. I'm concerned that our president is often someone who likes to drive a hard bargain by framing before negotiating. How will you help the administration appreciate the significant amount of contributions the Japanese have made over decades to basing our troops, to providing us with some significant but unquantifiable benefits from being a trusted and reliable anchor, ally, and partner, both militarily as well as economically in the region?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It certainly is daunting as you look at the amount of issues, and it's daunting when you look at the amount of money. I mean, when the Prime Minister talked about a direct investment into the United States of upwards of $1 trillion. I mean, these are, I mean, it's difficult to comprehend those types of numbers. But we've had a consistent support by the Japanese for our military in and around $1.4 billion a year, and it's been fairly consistent for a while. And undoubtedly, since the first administration to now, the sophistication of the Chinese is grown tremendously. and war has gotten, or not necessarily war, but a conflict or a push back and forth has gotten significantly more expensive. And so housing the troops has done that, whether we have weapon systems that we need to upgrade, command and control that we're going to be upgrading along with the Japanese. That's going to be these are very expensive ventures. And so undoubtedly, I do believe we're going to have to go to the Japanese and talk about an increase in that support.
Well, if I could, in closing, I'm grateful the Japanese have actively participated in supporting Ukraine in its fight. I hope we will encourage them to continue to do that and recognize that they, from halfway around the world, have been a part of that effort. And the move towards developing a real counterstrike capability by Japan, I hope will lead to co-production and purchasing and deployment of Tomahawk missiles, as well as other advanced systems. And I look forward to working with all three of you in your next postings. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If possible, I have one afterwards in the next couple of weeks as we go through this process, we'll still be here, and I would avail myself at any point in time to come in and talk through that with you.
Thank you, Ambassador. As the ranking member of the East Asia subcommittee about to go to the region with Senator Ricketts, I would very much welcome that. All three of you have been chosen to represent the United States for absolutely critical allies, and I hope that we can together sustain these trusted and long-standing relationships.